Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Headlines in Pro Wrestling this week, and another episode of the Kayfabe Central podcast. I don't know what episode number this is. I should probably keep track of how many episodes I've been doing for this headlines. But I've been doing the headlines since I started this channel much earlier this year. So we're at a pretty good number. But welcome to another episode. If you are new here, welcome to the channel. If you are returning, welcome back. You know how this goes. We go over all the latest news, TV recap, gossip, all the things that go on in the world of professional wrestling. We talk about here on the headlines. I am your host, Josh, as always. Joining me is Ruan Wrestling.
Hey guys.
So yeah, we got a couple things to go through, a lot of interesting things to go to. Got some releases to get into. We're gonna be talking about AI at one point in time. So yeah, a lot of interesting things. We're gonna be talking about TNA, some updates to AEW WrestleDream that we had. I don't even know when it was added, but yeah. So I actually have to give my mom something. So the first topic, Ru, I'm gonna let you take it.
Okay, okay.
So we had a couple releases. Those releases, I actually don't have every single one of them in front of me, but I'll go through some of the more known ones. So we obviously had Wes Lee, who everyone knows Wes Lee, prominent guy in NXT. Stevie Turner, who was the GM of Evolve, or the Prime Minister of Evolve, as she called herself. The more controversial one, being Ridge Holland. We also had Lance Anoa'i, or Ridge Holland was he was just told that his contract wasn't going to get renewed. And then we had Lance Anoa'i. We had Jin Tala, who was known on LFG. Um, and then I believe there was somebody else, but I am not remembering at the moment. So yeah, those were the releases. Rue's gonna go over it first, and I will be right back.
Sure. I'll start with Wesley. Why not? Um, the Wesley one is an interesting one because when I think about it, it's really frustrating because Wesley at a point in time I think was one of the next big things within NXT. He had so much potential. He was so over. Then unfortunately had that really bad back injury, I believe it was. Had to wait go away for it was almost a year I think he was out. Came back and he's one of the few that I think really suffered from that heel turn of his. I don't think it's really worked. I loved being able to. He was almost like an early version of Javon Evans when I first seen him. I was a big fan of him. I think he could have gone very far in NXT. I would have put my money on at the time him being an NXT champion at one point. And as I said, once he came back, turned heel. I think that was generally him signing the Death Note there. Was them turning him heel, and it's just not worked from there. So on the one hand, it's like it sucks, but also when's the last time we've seen Wesley? I think it was in a match against Joe Hendry maybe weeks ago, if not months. Um, we've not seen him. This again, it's not nice people losing their jobs, but maybe this means Wes can go on to do other things. The whole issue is I would say he would definitely go to TNA, but obviously with the TNA WWE partnership, it's a bit awkward trying to dictate where people are going to go. I know Zachary Wentz has opened up the treehouse to Wesley, but I hope him. Oh, I hope all the success and give him my best wishes. Like he's a phenomenal talent. I just think this whole heel gimmick he's landed with just it didn't showcase what is good about Wesley. So I hope he's absolute best. And by the way, Josh, at any point if you're back, feel free to interrupt me so I know you're back at the
Yeah,
same time. Oh, you're back.
yeah. So yeah, that's a really interesting point you brought up about Wes Lee. I I was a little bit shocked at this release. And you brought up the good point about TNA, and I think that Wesley is a phenomenal in-ring talent, and he's so good in that ring. However, I don't see him if he were to go to AEW, I don't
Yep.
see him being a big star over there. The only other option is TNA, which again, like you said, is very weird. Um, and I don't like that at all because if he goes to TNA, He's probably going to be paired with the Rascals, and he's probably just going to end up back in NXT anyway at some point.
Yeah.
He's just not going to be being paid by WWE and probably being paid a lot less by TNA. So I don't really like that. The only way I see is that him and the Rascals are probably just going to end up touring the Indies a lot more. Um, I wouldn't mind the Rascals being in AEW as a group and have some pretty solid trios matches.
Yep.
I think that would be pretty cool for them. But other than that, like if Wesley himself were to go to AEW, I just don't see him having that star factor to be up there with like guys like Kyle Fletcher and
Yep.
um guys like even like Mark Briscoe up there who's up there now and the MJFs of the world. Um I don't see him being a big deal.
Yep.
Um I wish that Ring of Honor was a little bit more paid attention to and a little bit more important. Tony Khan obviously can't handle both AEW and Ring of Honor, and I think he needs to hand it over to like Bryan Danielson or something like that.
Ooh.
That way you can get a Wesley in Ring of Honor and really build him up. And, Ring of Honor was a place, and obviously I know Tony Khan is probably not going to give up Ring of Honor because that's something he loved as a kid. But it's very clear that he can't handle both ROH and AEW. So I would much rather see, Danielson or somebody else take it over and, bring in this talent. And then Ring of Honor once again becomes a spot where a lot of wrestlers make a name for themselves.
That's a really interesting, actually, two interesting points. One separate from obviously the Wesley one. Firstly, I really like the idea of seeing not just Wesley, but I think the Rascals in general would be very good in Ring of Honor if, as you said, if they will book properly. And the second part of that is having Danielson in charge of Ring of Honor. That's a hell of a great show, by the way. I would love to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that giving it to somebody else other than Tony Khan will make it a lot better because right now Ring of Honor feels it almost feels like Evolve if we're talking in WWE terms, right? It's like it doesn't feel important, right? Your Ring of Honor World Champion is holding an AEW Tag Team title, right? That
Yeah.
just doesn't make sense to me.
When you put it like that, yeah.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel important. So I think that ownership needs to change. It can obviously still be, AEW, related because Danielson is still with AEW, but Bryan Danielson, I think specifically, he has an eye for talent. The way he thinks about wrestling is unlike a lot of other people.
Yeah.
Um, and I think he can make Ring of Honor really good.
Yeah, I think you're totally on there. I don't always get such a weird not in comparison, but just but I remember seeing that on. As I said, I am a very avid watcher of the Total Divas TV show. I remember seeing that when they were talking about wanting Brian to make his comeback, and he got in the ring with Sami Zayn, who's a very similar-minded like guy in wrestling terms as Brian Danielson. And I remember Breeze just standing watching them, being like, "This is like the cutest and cringiest and strangest but most amazing thing ever." Just watching the two of them just discuss wrestling like no one else can think of it that way. And I think you're totally right because Ring of Honor is I forget half the time Ring of Honor exists until we get the pre-show of an AEW show, and you see the champions on there, apart from Bandido, obviously. Um, I think that's an amazing show, and kind of, as I said, coming back to the Wesley thing, I think Ring of Honor is a great shout for him and the Rascals to be in. But as you said, at the minute, I don't know if they would be booked, but the way they deserve to be, maybe Danielson would be that catalyst to change that.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the other releases that I mentioned was Stevie Turner. Now Stevie Turner was she started in NXT UK if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
She wrestled for a little bit. And then came over to NXT, was a little bit of a assistant to Ava, and then eventually took over Evolve. Um, and now she is released, and she put out a tweet or something that was like, now I can go back to wrestling, which is really shitty to look at because
Yep.
she could have been wrestling this entire time, and WWE just didn't want to have her wrestle. And I think Robert Stone is going to be the one to eventually um take over Evolve. But even Robert Stone's another example. Like he can still wrestle, but you're not having him wrestle. And I think it's a really shitty thing. And like we've talked about so many times about how WWE and TKO, how they run things and how it's not good. Um, it's it's bad that you have people hired um that want to do things, that they want to wrestle, but WWE just doesn't let them. And they're like, "Oh no, you're gonna, be a general manager instead, or you're gonna do this instead." Right? It's not it's not ideal. Like I don't think um like even when you think about Adam Pearce, right? I think at first when Adam Pearce got signed, like he obviously knew the role he was gonna have, but I'm pretty sure in the back of his mind somewhere he was like, maybe I'll get a chance to wrestle. Because not a lot of people know, but Adam Pearce was a pretty good wrestler in Ring of Honor at one point in
Yep.
time. And he can go in the ring. Nick Aldis is somebody who can go in the ring.
Yep. Former
Um,
TNA champion.
yeah, exactly. So I think it's really unfortunate that you have people that want to wrestle, they want to do things, and you have them do things like be a general manager, and they listen because it's what's the term that they used it in the Cross and Van Fleet interview? A good soldier, it is.
Hmm.
Um, they're being a good soldier. They're doing what they're told, all just to be released.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't like that.
No, I'm with you. It's questionable. I think even not just Stevie Turner and Robert Stone. I think people forget Ava herself is a wrestler. It's probably she started at WWE and past NXT. Like, is Ava just going to be the general manager of NXT for the rest of her life? Like, now don't get me wrong. There's the whole thing around her. Just this very small minor detail for being the Rock daughter. We'll not talk about that. We'll forget that part. But like, just in general, as you said, it's a weird position to put people who are wanting to learn, like, want to be wrestlers. And Stevie Turner, particularly, it's weird. Again, kind of like the Wes Lee one, I was annoyed, but also not annoyed by her release. I'm annoyed because I, it sucks for someone to lose their job. I wanted to see Stevie Turner doing more because she's actually very, very good in the ring. Um, and just the complete lack of one, as you said, just they had to be a general manager and basically a PA to bloody Ava. Which sort, but at the same time, if they weren't going to use her on that role and it's something she wants to do, now she can get to go off and do it. So, absolute fair play. So she'll be fine. She's very, very talented. I'm excited to see where she ends up next. Again, like Wes Lee, it's quite hard to speculate, especially with all the big companies now owning all the small companies.
Yeah.
Uh, so no clue, but yeah, I agree. The whole sentiment behind it is just it's just a bit. I am with you. It's like I don't like I think the general manager position is suited to either an on-screen personality who isn't a wrestler, like the likes of Heyman or Bischoff, Terry Long, etc., etc., or it is a retired wrestler, like so when it was Mick Foley, Kurt Angle, Page for a while. But yeah, when it's fully fit and healthy wrestlers doing it, it's a bit meh.
Yeah. It's like because they can wrestle and
Yep,
they can go in the ring and they're just not. Like when Daniel Bryan was a manager, it made sense because he couldn't wrestle at the time.
yep,
So that made sense. But like people like Stevie Turner, like you'd obviously know much more about Stevie Turner than I do. I haven't watched a lot of her matches, but I will 100% take your word that she can
yep.
go in the ring. Um, and yeah, excited to see what she ends up doing. Um, I want to save the Rich Holland one for last because
Yeah.
um that's a little bit more of a talking point. You brought up Ava though, and someone who's a little bit in relation to Ava is Lance and Hawaii. Um, Now Lance had zero TV time at all since being signed, and he got signed at the height of that Bloodline story. And we thought that he was gonna be a part in that, or even have a solo run on NXT. Um, I find it crazy that you couldn't find a single thing for him to do. Um, I thought also that because of his last name, he'd, be assured to never get fired from there. But obviously not the case. Um, yeah, I don't understand why they did nothing with him at all.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. As you said, like when he was first brought in, I think 99% of the wrestling world would have said, right, there we go, that's another bloodline member to add to the list. Which one is he the son of, by the way? I'm looking at I'm gonna have a look at this up. There's so many. Son of Samu. Okay. Okay. That's fine. There's just everyone. Yeah, it's a bit weird. I'm going to just assume he hadn't progressed like they wanted, but I don't know. As you said, I feel like particularly with how the landscape of WWE is right now, it's very Anoa'i heavy. To not be able to find a place, I feel like he definitely could have fit in somewhere. Would it have worked out in the long? I'm not going to sit here and say Lance Anoa'i is the next Roman Reigns, which you can clip that if you want. uh, I'm not about to and prepared to sit here and say that, but you never know though. There was a time when Roman Reigns was just Roman Reigns, wrestling in trunks in NXT. So like you never know. And with the right storyline, he could have been able to work under like even right now if he was put along with the MFTs. I know we kind of joke and take the piss out of them a little bit because they are a bit laughable at times, but I mean he's still in there with the likes of Tamatonga. JC Mateo, again, as much as we laugh at him, he is Jeff Cobb, who is amazing. Like he could have learned under the tutelage of them. So yeah, it is a bit strange they couldn't find anything for him.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, hopefully um he has the best in his career, and he's able to make a wave on the indies. And maybe eventually work his way back to WWE. I find it crazy that you have all these developmental things and you couldn't have them on one. Like you have NXT, you have Evolve, you even have Main Event where you had was he Hikaleo before?
Yep.
Um, you had Hikaleo on those main event shows. You couldn't have Lance and Hawaii on any of those things. Um, I find that kind of crazy. Um, but let's talk about Ridge Holland. This one is the most controversial and talked about because there's a lot of things that went into this. So, firstly, Ridge Holland got injured on TNA during a TNA taping. And he, the WWE is evil. We've talked about that before. And they are not paying him, and they're paying for his rehabilitation, which is fine, which they should do, and if they didn't, they'd probably be getting sued. Um, Despite it being under TNA, it's still, under their umbrella. So that makes sense, but um yeah, he's just being completely released. He's not getting his contract renewed. And what's even crazier is that he wasn't paid extra for the TNA appearances. And I guarantee you, people like Trick Williams were. And I find that insane because I feel like the WWE was like, okay, we can just let this guy go. We don't have to pay much attention to him because, our fan base is crazy and all they're gonna remember is unfortunately him and Big E. Um, this is a guy that I thought had potential, right? This guy came from NXT UK, then went into NXT. and then got brought up to SmackDown alongside the Brawling Brutes. And then from there, he didn't have much. And then now we're here. And he is not getting his contract renewed. I think this is one of the many fucked up things that the WWE has done.
Yeah, I think what I'll say first when it comes to Ridge Holland is I'm not going to sit here and pretend like Ridge Holland was my favorite wrestler of all time. And just in terms of a release, could I have seen Ridge Holland's name on a release card within this year, the next year? Probably. However, it's as you said, everything that's came with it and all the just shit that WWE's pulled around it that's just absolutely insane. Um, as you said, there was a point in time where there was potential for Ridge, and like, as you said, unfortunately, everyone's just going to remember the Big E injury. I mean, that was always something I thought. I know it's maybe a bit of a horrible thing, but to try to turn a bad thing into a good thing, they could have maybe capitalized on as long as Big E was okay with it, obviously. Something to play off of Ridge Holland, give him a bit of personality, but nothing. They just never seem to want to try with him at all. Like, I mean, they've also put him in Chase U for a bit, which is weird. Um, but yeah, just it's as if, as you said, they were just trying to get him to slowly quit eventually. And but yeah, the whole situation around this is crazy. Where you've been injured wrestling for another company under your orders, and I've seen a lot of people and giving praise to WWE to say, "Oh, but it's nice that he's paying these medical bills." They have to, because I'm pretty sure if they didn't, that is a lawsuit waiting to happen.
Yep.
So it's not a case of, oh, it's nice to WWE. It's they're just making sure they don't get sued. Um, I think it's mental. I think it's disgusting. As you said as well, I didn't actually know about the whole TNA thing and not being paid for that as well, which is utterly insane. And the fact is, he's now out of work for another, what's his recovery time? Another 6 months, maybe 6 to 9 months, maybe.
Um,
And
from what I've heard, it's probably going to be about a year.
a year of hecking exactly. He's not now able to work for a year. He has from what I've gathered, 5 young children. And not just that, he obviously lives in America. I can't imagine it's the cheapest of places to live.
Yeah.
I don't live there myself, but I'm just taking a wild guess.
Yeah.
Um, it, yeah, there's a lot around it that just sucks, and it's just, and again, this whole year we've been speaking about it in WWE, we've been flashing the cash and like, look at this is the biggest gate, this is that. They have the money, they absolutely have it. I don't know. It's one of those other things, as we've said many a time. WWE do something, and you just kind of, we always say lol TNA. It's now becoming that with WWE. We're like, of course, nothing like genuinely doesn't even surprise me anymore when some of these stories come out.
Yeah, and I am not liking with WWE releasing people while they're on the shelf.
Hmm.
I like they we saw it with Kylie Ray and
Yeah,
now Ridge Holland, and they've done this multiple times to multiple people before. And um it's really shitty that WWE and TKO are doing certain things that are making, out of all people, Vince McMahon look good. Right? And we know Vince
yeah.
McMahon has a lot of problems, like damn near deranged, if I will.
Oh
And
yeah,
TKO and the WWE at the moment are making him look good.
yeah.
And
I
that is
think I agree. It's
ridiculous.
crazy.
Yeah. Um, but that's the releases. But you know what, Rue? Maybe, just maybe, AI will help the WWE grow a little bit. Because the WWE has hired Kowsari for AI-based storytelling and integration. Now, I knew at some point that, like there's always the saying that AI is going to take over the world. This is laziness at its peak. Because you're telling me that you can't, you have a bunch of writers that you have a bunch of writers. You made a whole show called Unreal where you pulled back the curtain to show the behind the scenes, all that so you can hire an AI. And I think this is really bad for some of the writers. Like obviously people like Road Dogg are gonna still have their jobs and whatnot. But I feel bad for some of the writers, other writers on there, because it's very possible that there's gonna be a couple writers that will lose their jobs to AI. And that is absurd. Um, yeah, I don't understand it at all.
Yeah, it's a wild story though. Though as we were talking about last night, as I said, Broad SmackDown's been weirdly alright the last couple of times. But no, I think it's ridiculous, particularly from like someone like me. As I never go into it in this part on just but not just the podcast, but like on online as well. Like we've also spoken out with about like what I do for work and all that, and it's an industry where AI is becoming rampant and it's becoming a worry, and we hate it. And it's like, and we've seen WWE dabble in it within the last year. Obviously, there was all the controversy that went around the El Grande Americano vignette
Yeah.
that came in with that, and obviously a lot, as you said, it's just laziness at that point, um, and try to save a bit of money. I think it's scary, and as you said, it's worrying. As you particularly if you're going to be a writer at WWE, I just I just don't think you'll understand the ideology of like, especially with someone like Triple H. Like, we always go on about, well, obviously but like just in general, Triple H was never the greatest wrestler, but he understood how to work a crowd. He understood the psychology that went into a wrestling angle.
Yeah.
You can't match that with AI. Like you just can't. The sheer emotion. Yeah, maybe it comes up with an idea and you go, oh, actually that's quite like interesting. But surely that's then on the person and the writers and the bookers and the wrestlers themselves to make that apparent on screen. Like you can't have AI just write the entire thing. It's not going to work. It's not going to emotionally just just work. That's what I'm trying to say. I mean, did you see the apparent attempt that they did with the Bobby Lashley story?
Oh God, yeah. Oh my
It
God.
was awful. I guess I'll say for anyone that doesn't know that it was Bobby. They'd what the AI had picked or predicted a story with it would involve Bobby Lashley coming, who obviously, as some of you I'm sure will know, doesn't wrestle for WWE, completely different company. He would come back and be obsessed with like Japanese like manga and anime. What I gathered, and that was going to be his entire personality. This is Bobby Lashley, who's built like a brick shithouse.
It, it,
What?
it's just like when what they did with Tensai. He is a
Exactly.
white American man who was obsessed with Japanese wrestling.
Forgot he existed.
And yeah, and now we're gonna have a black American man obsessed with Japanese wrestling. I don't understand that at all. I've played with AI a few times and like there's been a couple times just for fun I've like been like, okay, write me an episode of Monday Night Raw. And with AI, you can't just tell it to write you an episode. You have to feed it the information in order for it to, you know, give you something reliable. Right? So they have to be feeding this information to AI for the AI to process it and then write something. Um, my, I guess, worry is what if the product becomes better?
Oh,
What
that's
if,
the issue.
like, what if it becomes so much better? Like, what does that say about the writers at WWE currently?
I, I know it genuinely is sounds stupid, but it is like a worry. But then it's like then folks say, but why would you be complaining about the product being better? Of course, I want it to be better, but I don't want it written by robots. But if it's, I don't know. It is very conflicting, as you said. I think AI has a place in certain bits around the world. It can be very useful. Um, when you're trying to full on replace jobs that require emotional maturity and intelligence, I think we're reaching a very awkward crossing here.
Yeah. Um, yeah, this is really interesting because after last night's episode of SmackDown and um obviously this was like right after SmackDown. So AI couldn't have possibly processed excuse me, everything that happened on SmackDown immediately. So I was like, okay, let me um ask AI to book me an episode of SmackDown for yesterday and um based on recent storylines and whatnot. It gave me the answer, and a lot of what it gave me happened on SmackDown last night. So that just goes to show me that it's possible that they have been using AI potentially for quite some time and have just recently come out about it.
I mean, they did announce the whole writer's shake-up. I mean, but there's I want to joked at the beginning, but we did say last night in your stream a bit of a joke. It was like Ron SmackDown's been better,
Yeah.
and uh, and storylines have gone a bit mental in a kind of fun, holy shit way. I mean, also we'll get into everything that happened on Monday Night Raw. And last night was a bit crazy all over the place.
Yeah.
I it's like I really don't know what to think. At the heart of it, I'm like, no, like absolutely not. We shouldn't be using AI for this. But then, as you said, I'm like, but it's kind of annoying because if this product was written by AI, it was a lot better. I don't know where to feel.
Yeah, I have no idea either. Like I said, of course we want the product to be better, but it feels better when it's written by an actual person.
Yeah,
Hmm. Um,
interesting.
yeah. So some other I keep coughing and I don't know why. Um, but some like a little bit more, I guess, positive or neutral news. WWE Elimination Chamber 2026 has been announced for Chicago. I think this should be fun, but I know Chicago is a city that's wanted a WrestleMania, especially with CM Punk back in WWE now. I think WrestleMania in Chicago would be fine. I think that would be pretty cool. Um, However, do you think that the Elimination Chamber 2026 being in Chicago kind of spoils that CM Punk might win the chamber?
No, not at all, and I don't know what you're talking about. I actually didn't know this. This is news to me. I didn't know it'd been announced for Chicago. Which straight away though, as soon as you said that, my mind went, Punk. So I guess that answers your question.
Yeah. I so obviously this year it was in Toronto. And yeah, so it's gonna be in Chicago now. I don't have much else on this. But yeah, I'm the same way. I thought about CM Punk immediately. I'm like, so maybe he's
Interesting.
not winning that world title soon. Uh,
No, no, it's an interesting one that, as you said, with Punk. Chicago just like they like Detroit. They seem to. Oh wait, what I'm on about is in. I like. Oh, what I'm on about. I got the cities mixed up there for a second. Anyway, Chicago. They get always they get the fun stuff. They get like Punk's return and all that. Like they don't need another WrestleMania.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, Chicago's getting a lot because of CM Punk. So,
Yeah,
um, yeah, but I'm sure Chicago is desperately wanting a WrestleMania. Um,
if they can get
yeah,
it back in the US.
yeah, exactly. Then let's talk about some TV stuff. So, Monday Night Raw was pretty interesting. I can't even remember if I did a Monday Night Raw post show. I've just been pulling content out of my ass and I completely forget what I do. But Seth Rollins was turned on by Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed. The Vision. Um, I've given my opinions a little bit on this before. So like in a second, I'll let you like give more intel on it. But this is obviously because Seth Rollins is injured and may require surgery. So I kind of understand as to why they pulled the trigger this early. I think if Rollins wasn't injured, they wouldn't have. Um, but that leaves the World Heavyweight Championship in a big question mark because is it now going to be vacated and we're going to have two people fight over it? The thing that I was saying is that Paul Heyman is probably going to pull some strings to um, get that title on Braun Breaker. But yeah, this was really interesting. What did you make of this?
Okay, yeah. So firstly, as you said, it's very interesting. I'm almost really annoyed though because I said this in the chat. The move that injured Rollins was so unnecessary.
Yeah,
Like, why did it doesn't matter. Um, yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, it sucks for Seth, especially at the minute because this sort of feels like the first time that Seth has been like the top. And we always go on about it. He goes on about himself that he's always been under Roman in that sense. But now it feels like Seth was finally being able to look at as the guy at the top of WWE. And of course, injury happens because that's all that happens in WWE at the minute is injuries. Um, very shocking. That was, as I said, very shocking segment to have. I have an idea about it, and it's funny. I'm actually going to guess. If you all listen to this, then spoiler because you don't have to go watch my TikTok tomorrow. What I'm going to do about this. I have I guess, a thought process of what could happen because I think it's still slightly early right now for Braun to go on and win the World Heavyweight Championship. I
agreed.
wouldn't be opposed to it. I know that's the direction we're going in, and the eventual outcome will be Braun holding that. I also think with Braun, I would have pictured his crowning moment. This is the guy. This is the future to be at WrestleMania. The big win at Mania that Braun himself, I think, deserves. So I think at the minute there's a couple of options that we go for. Obviously, if the title does have to be vacated, you've obviously got the safest option, which would probably be CM Punk, just a safe pair of hands with it.
Yeah.
Next option is going for guys who obviously haven't won the title before, who absolutely deserve it on in and around the main event. We obviously got the likes of LA Knight. The other one that I thought was very interesting. What if it was Jimmy Uso? Boom,
Mm,
bombshell. What if it was Jimmy Uso? And I say this also, firstly, because it will hopefully appease everyone that hates Jey Uso. But no, because actually no, I did see that clip of you with Wrestling Geezer today actually talking about this exact thing and the fact that Jimmy all round is actually the better storyteller and the better wrestler, and I actually agree with the two of yous. Um, I do. I've always been in. You were talking about how it used to be really equal with the Usos, but now it's not. And the fact is that Jimmy himself, I think, is the better storyteller. He's the better wrestler in the ring. It just happened to be that Jey Uso had the character at the time.
yeah.
What if we had four matches going on right now, four kind of elimination matches, and then the winner of those matches went on to have a fatal four-way for the vacant World Heavyweight Championship. Obviously, one of the men in the match has to be Braun Breaker. I think that makes sense.
Yep.
Next man in the match, he's going to hate me. Sorry, everyone. It has to be Jey Uso. He has to be in this match. The other man can be whoever. It could be Punk. It can be LA Knight. Whoever. Just one of them who helped make the star power up of the match. The final man, and the man also that I talked about who would go on to win it, is Jimmy Uso. Within the match, and don't know how he does it, either Jimmy would cost Jey either by being the one to pin Jey, or Jey hits, say, the Uso splash or the spear on whoever, LA Knight. Jimmy pulled Jey out. Jimmy picks up the win. Jimmy Uso is your new World Heavyweight Champion. And then this would further this ongoing story that we've got right now between Roman and Jey, and Roman saying to Jey that he just can't get it done and he needs to look out for himself. And we've seen the cracks form between Jey and Jimmy. Now, I'm not sitting here trying to pitch that this goes on to be a WrestleMania feud, not going that far,
Hmm.
but it's just something different, something new that everyone seems to clamour for, even though I swear half the people complain when they get something new anyway. um, something different, something new that would help further along the storyline. And one of the more interesting ones on Raw at the minute, I think, is this the fall of Jey Uso and trying basically, we said maybe becoming heel at some point and being touted by Roman Reigns and Roman maybe now being able to say to him, well, your brother's obviously better than you. See, this is a man who knows how to take charge. I don't know. Anyway, that was my little random thought process rant. I'm going to do a video on it tomorrow. They will. But either way, I'm intrigued to see what happens now with the World Heavyweight Champion. It sucks for Seth, but again, it switches things up a little bit, makes it must see TV, makes it interesting, and I want to see what happens going forward.
Yeah. Either way, CM Punk has to be in a match that revolves around the world title because he is now guaranteed a shot
Yes,
at that
yes.
World Heavyweight Championship. So, um, I think that's a really interesting point, though, and not something I thought about. Um, that would be interesting, and it would be very new. And I think Jimmy Uso, he deserves it. He definitely deserves it. Like we mentioned, I do think that he is the better wrestler, um, and the better storyteller. He added a lot to the early stages of that bloodline story when it was Roman versus Jay. Um, I think the Roman and Jay thing was starting to get stale until Jimmy got involved. So yeah, I wouldn't be fully opposed to it as long as it's not another Jey Uso reign. That's my only fear of that. If they can, or if AI can write a good reign for Jimmy Uso, then I'll be okay with it.
Yeah.
Um, but that's there was nothing else on Monday Night Raw that unless I'm forgetting at the moment.
Oh my god. This is the thing when we do the headlines at the end of the week. I've completely forgotten Raw for the week.
Yeah, because I don't have it in front of me at the moment, but
Oh,
that was a major thing.
yeah.
Um, yeah, that was a major thing that happened on Raw. If something comes to mind between me or Rue, we'll bring it up. Um, let's go on to something that's more fresh in our minds, though, that being Friday Night SmackDown that went down last night. Back to normal timing for SmackDown from San Jose, California. Um, a pretty solid episode of Friday Night SmackDown up until the very end. And we're gonna get into that, but the major talking point of this episode of SmackDown was the United States Championship Open Challenge match. Now, before SmackDown started, I saw the report that Ilya Dragunov was in San Jose and he was working out in the ring. So that just gave me the inclination that, okay, he's going to accept the US title Open Challenge. And I did not expect the result that came with that because Ilya Dragunov, with some help from Solo Sikoa's distraction, beat Sami Zayn to win the United States Championship. And I love this. I love everything about this because when you think of it realistically, someone like Sami Zayn facing Ilya Dragunov unprepared, not having a strategy, he should lose that match. Someone the caliber of Ilya Dragunov is somebody you need to plan for and strategize for, and beating him should be a big deal. So I love the fact that they went with Ilya Dragunov winning the title here. His celebration was cut short, obviously, by the MFTs. But what do you think about Ilya winning the US title?
Okay, so firstly, what I'll say is because obviously we've well, I think when we first started kind of meet each other, it was around June, and obviously we've not really got to speak about Ilya Dragunov because we know he's been away. The injury was last in the year. Here's insight for you: I would give every title in wrestling to Ilya Dragunov. That's my level of admiration for this man. I love him. This match was stupid for how amazing it was.
Oh, good.
Like we were talking for anyone wondering, like I was in Josh's stream last night as you were streaming it, and we were sitting like watching it, and I was like, it was during they were going harder than half the people do it when it's actually WrestleMania during the commercials. Like They were kicking literally the living shit out of each other. It was stiff, it was brutal, and I loved every single second of this. Once again, in typical fashion, I have left another week where I have a gripe with the IWC because when do I not? Um, I've seen so many folk complaining about this, saying, "Oh, I don't like this. It should have been a new guy coming up for NXT." Elio, when he came up, had what a couple of matches maybe on the main roster and then got injured. This basically is as good as a call up from NXT. It's as close as you're going to get. And as you said, someone the caliber. This isn't just a. It sounds bad to say, but I think it's true. This isn't someone that's the level of a Carmelo Hayes, and I know that is mean and sucks to say because Carmelo is amazing. Elio is just a presence. He's a smaller version of Gunther. There's something about him. Like you, I mean, I say smaller. He came out again. Like I don't know what's going on with the wrestlers by the way at the minute coming back from injury and looking like they've put on about 10 pounds of muscle. Like they've
It's
all done. They've
yeah,
all done that. Um, that I absolutely loved this. I adored this. And deep down, I this is exactly how Sami Zayn would have wanted to bow out of the United States Championship. Just and easily, I think will go down. We're only a couple of months removed from the end of the year. This will easily go down as the best one-on-one because obviously we do have TLC as well. But I think this will go down as the best one-on-one TV match of the year. Easy. This was insane. I love this. Elio's the new champion. I do agree with what Stu said on his video on this. He was like, I'm sad that it's over for Sammy because it's been the best part of SmackDown now for ages, and it's done exactly what they needed to do with Sammy. A lot of people were starting to lose the fanfare with Sami Zayn. This brought it right back. So now, if they want to go and maybe push Sammy towards the main event, I think they probably can with a lot less backlash than what they would have got if they'd done it after SummerSlam. But either way, I'm incredibly happy for Elio. I'm excited to see what happens going forward. Though at some point, just saying WWE, I'm going to need my Elio versus Gunther 3, please, within the WWE. Thank you.
100%. Um, that's a good point about Sami Zayn, though. I think Sami Zayn is in that Daniel Bryan in that 2013-14 spot right now,
Yep.
where he's hot and he can slowly be entering that world title picture. And the guy needs to win a world title, for God's sake. He needs to. And I wouldn't fully be opposed to a Cody Rhodes and Sami Zayn program at WrestleMania. Um,
Yep.
and like because Cody Rhodes is, the big baby face, he's unbeatable right now. Sami Zayn going into that looks like a major underdog, which is what he should be. And that would be a really good story. And if they wanted to, they could turn Cody heel in that scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that has a lot of potential there, and I think you need to capitalize on this. From these US Open challenges and these good matches he's been having because Sami Zayn proved that he can go in that ring no matter what. So yeah, and obviously in kayfabe he proved that he doesn't have to plan for an opponent to put on a good match. So he should be getting elevated. I don't think he should be stuck in limbo with the MFTs. I think just leave the MFTs in the Wyatt Six how it is. I don't understand why Sami Zayn and Ilya Dragunov and Shinsuke is involved. Um, I am starting to think that the Vision is not going to be involved in War Games at all. And I'm starting to think that the War Games match is actually going to be the MFTs and the Wyatts. Um, I think that if they're gonna go 5-on-5, you obviously have Bo, you have Rowan, you have Loomis, and you have Gacy. Um, and then you need one more in there.
Hi,
Uh,
Nikki, you cowards.
yeah, sure. Throw Nikki versus Solo is the match that we want, right?
It is.
And then on the MFT side of things, you have Solo, JC, Tongaloa, Tama and Tala Tonga. Did I say Tala already?
No. Where do we go?
Solo, Tama
Yep.
Tongaloa, JC, and Talatoga. So yeah, that's five
Yes.
already. Um, so I think that's gonna end up being the War Games match instead, because the Vision. I think that they're gonna go in a different route with Seth Rollins being hurt. It doesn't make sense to have the Vision of War Games if Seth isn't involved. And I think that we're pivoting towards the Wyatts and the MFTs in War Games.
Yeah, you brought this up last night, and then as soon as you said it, I was like, I can see that. Little bit tailored and boring, but it makes sense. Like, you know what, at the War Games time of the year, and we currently have a faction that's versus a faction. It makes sense. Um,
Yep.
we've got them sat there. Yeah, you said it last night. I can see them doing this. Because it's weird. Because I know I was joking around this and putting Nikki in the War Games. It'd be interesting to see who could join the Wyatt Six to go against them. Like, who's spooky enough? Like Aleister Black, maybe. He's spooky. like,
Uh,
um. So yeah, I don't know who they would find to be that fifth man. But I think you've picked up a good point there. Like it makes sense when you look at the landscape of things currently, unless, as you I think also pointed out, maybe they do a team of baby faces to go up against the MFTs, like in likes of Sammy, Ilya, Shinsuke, Ray Phoenix, and someone else. But then, as you also pointed out, like what would be the whole point in them feuding, the MFT feuding with the White Six?
yeah, exactly. I can see, unfortunately, knowing WWE, I can see them. It sounds so stupid to say, but it's honestly a possibility of Sami Zayn teaming with the Wyatts against the MFTs,
It's a
just so
great
Sami
visual.
Zayn can get his hands on the MFTs. Um, and it'll be like that weird dynamic where Sami Zayn is the more normal one, but the Wyatts are very, like you said, spooky and creepy. Um, yeah. And it could end up turning into something where like a similar carrying cross thing where the Wyatts are trying to turn Sami Zayn. Um, yeah, I don't know. That's the thing with these heel versus heel dynamics. I don't like it. Um, because the White Six, they're heels, and so are the MFTs. Um, it has it was much different when they did the Shield versus the Wyatts because the Shield at the time were baby faces. Um, so yeah, doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but that's possibly a direction that they can go in. Um, nothing else. Oh yeah, the what ended up ending SmackDown was so it was supposed to be Jacob Fatu versus Drew McIntyre. But obviously we all heard the reports that Jacob Fatu was injured, so he supposedly got attacked backstage. He had a bunch of teeth laying on the floor, um, all bloodied, so he was written off that way. Drew McIntyre came out asking to have his hand raised and be announced the new number one contender. Nick Aldis came out, said he wasn't going to do that. Then Cody Rhodes came out and was like, you know what, you want your championship match? We can do it right now. So they brawled. The match didn't start. And mind you, this happened at like 9:47, 9:50
Yep.
my time. So this was like the show was almost over. And by time the bell rung, it was 9:53. So they went on, and then Cody Rhodes used the belt against Drew McIntyre, so McIntyre wins by DQ. I put on the website that this was a championship match, but I'm still not sure because they didn't clarify. Even commentary was confused. So and then they just brawled. They had security break up the brawl to end the show. Out of all the options you could have gone with, this had to be the worst possible option.
Yeah, it was. Like it was weird. So obviously, again, I was with you in the stream, and see up until Cody using that belt, I was kind of enjoying it. It was just sheer hectic chaos, but I was a bit like, This is different. It's something new. Okay, cool. Let's get on board. But we were saying to each other, Drew can't lose this, and we were technically correct. Um, we were like, he cannot lose this if this is a championship match. And they then pulled that stunt, which, as you said, I said it, this was the worst possible option they could have done. And it just left a dud in what I thought was a fairly fun episode of SmackDown. And it just had this awkward dud on the end of it of Cody using that belt. Now, granted, maybe obviously we need to. It's just the way it is. We need to maybe give it time to look at where this goes, and maybe this is a heelish Cody Rhodes that we're going to be getting now. I don't know. But it still seems weird if it is because once again, and I think this is a statement I've said at least 1,000 times this year, when the inevitable Drew McIntyre rematch happens, because he will definitely get one from this, surely he can't lose that again, unless Cody, again, in a really sucky way, cheats to win. But then it's like, are we turning Drew like babyface? Like, I don't think that's going to work with the crowd. He's babyface in my heart. Drew McIntyre's always a babyface, but well, like I don't know what was going on. I was actually very much enjoying this until the right at the end, and then I went right. What in the f are we doing here?
Yeah. Um, yeah, this was just not good. Like you said, the brawl was kind of fun. Like they were just, I mean, when was the last time the title was defended in a button up?
Oh
Um,
yeah, I know.
so I mean that it was fun until that. And again, like you said, it's like if Drew gets another title opportunity, I can just see him losing.
I think so.
I don't see them taking it off of Cody. Cody is their golden boy, and they seem very scared to take that title off of him. Like we even saw in the time frame from WrestleMania when he lost to John Cena at the SummerSlam, Cody Rhodes wasn't doing a whole lot in that time frame, like at all. Until he finally won the title back. And it's almost as if WWE has forgotten how to book Cody Rhodes without the championship.
Oh
So
yeah.
now they're just scared to take it off of him.
Yeah, it feels that way. I mean, I think I don't know if yogurts and other people might, but like I always find I actually I don't hate Cody as champion. I don't mind him.
Yeah.
I love Cody Rhodes, but I think he's so much better when he's on the chase for the championship. And I think the issue there, as you point out, that they've got is when he either doesn't have the championship or isn't on the chase for one. I don't think they know what to do. And then, as you said, once he has the championship, it's like, oh, what do we do now? And I think that is definitely an issue they've had. I think he's a lot more believable, and you can get invested in the storyline with Cody when he's on that chase.
Yeah. Um, this is probably a match that's just gonna take place at Saturday night's main event. Um,
Yeah.
Probably the one in November that we're getting. Um, but that was SmackDown. Um, Speaking of November, there are going to be no new TNA tapings until November. Um, I assume that this is because their TV deal that they're working on. We've been hearing for a couple months now that they've been working on getting a TV deal, which they definitely desperately need. Um, so that kind of sucks though that you can't find a way to broadcast TNA in any shape or form until November. Um, I just assume now that the TNA talent is just going to be appearing on NXT.
Yeah, I would assume so as well. It's a hard one to say, I just because I think they are just waiting for that TV deal. We've got a lot, I guess. Well, do we have a lot going on? I've completely forgot what's even going on now with NXT. Yeah, I think so. It's in a very awkward position at the minute. I think we all knew inevitably this was also going to happen, but yeah, I think they are just waiting. I'm sure we'll get a big announcement around it come November.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but that. That's honestly that's I hate to say this again, but that's WWE lazy. Like that, if there's any indication of the effect that WWE is having on TNA, it's that. Because the TNA that we all knew and loved wouldn't let waiting for a TV deal get in the way of producing content and programming. They would have done this on like YouTube even for free for a month. And I it's kind of dumb because like while TNA is not the greatest right now, like their weekly shows, I still watch TNA and I still enjoy like seeing some people on there, especially people that I know personally as well. Um, and it kind of just sucks for them. It sucks for people like Jody Threat, who I know personally, used to be a coach, and works in TNA. I don't see her appearing on NXT. I don't see WWE taking a chance on her to have her on NXT. And there's a lot of other people there that like I don't see like there's a lot of teenage superstars as well that I can see just wanting to wait for the TV deals to come and not wanting to appear on NXT. Because that just it just doesn't make any sense to me.
I can guarantee you we won't be seeing Big Tessa in NXT.
You know what? That's the good thing that comes out of this. We don't get to see Tessa Blanchard.
Oh,
Uh,
wait till it happens though.
oh, um, yeah, that's another. I don't know how she is still employed,
Oh.
honestly. Um, something I'm gonna bring up really, like kind of briefly. Um, Konosuke Takeshita won the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship at New Japan Pro Wrestling King of Pro Wrestling. Um, I was on the Wrestling Geezer podcast. We talked about this briefly. I didn't watch the match, but I was told by the Wrestling Geezer that this was a phenomenal match, and he even went as far to say, sorry, Rue, I'm spoiling it a little bit for you. But he went as far to say as if we didn't have Styles for Cena this year, this would have been match of the year. Um, I don't doubt that at all. You have Zack Sabre Jr. and Takeshita. It was inevitable that Takeshita was going to win that IWGP Heavyweight title, so I'm happy for him. I think Takeshita is somebody that has a huge future in professional wrestling, and he's going to do so much in the future, whether it be AEW or if he decides to go elsewhere in the future. Um, he's got a big future out of him.
Oh yeah, the rise of Takeshita starts now, and just saying he'll be adding another belt to that tonight. Just at the WrestleDream. I adore Takeshita. He is someone, as you said, that's been just walking and grinding into quote Sheamus. He's just putting on bang out after bang out after bang out, and he's finally starting to get his just rewards. I agree. He has an immensely bright future ahead of him, and I want to see him at the top. He's already at the top in New Japan. I want to see him at the top of AEW at some point. I adore him. Um, I'm just very happy for him. I'm very happy. I'm excited to see where this goes from going forward.
Yeah, we also a couple of months ago now talked about Zack Sabre Jr. dealing with an injury. I can assume that that played a factor as well into him dropping the title.
Oh yeah,
So yeah, but I think injury or not, Takeshita was gonna win this match.
I think so. I think you're right though.
Yeah. Um, Speaking of Takeshita, we have an update to AEW WrestleDream tonight that's going down. On the main card itself, we have a Mercedes Moné TBS Championship Open Challenge. Um, I don't know who's going to accept this open challenge. It could literally be anybody, but Mercedes Moné is going to retain regardless.
I mean, I agree. Yeah, because you told me about this as we started, and I have generally been trying to think on who it could be since you told me, and it's a weird one because they wouldn't make it, and here's I guess kind of trying to be smarky about it. They surely wouldn't make it an open challenge if it wasn't going to be someone of a surprise. Now, not sitting here trying to say it's going to be groundbreaking. It might just be someone returning from injury or whoever. Maybe it's a one-off deal that they've got with someone. But the thing I'm trying to think is who it could be. I'm very much struggling here. So I'm excited to see who it is, but no matter who it is, as you've said, Mercedes Money is going to win, and that's the end of that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't see it being someone like Britt Baker.
She
Um,
did cross my mind, which I thought would be very interesting to chuck her back in hill with Mercedes.
yeah, for sure. But I don't think it's gonna be her. I don't know where her mindset is at the moment with wrestling in general.
Yeah,
Um, so and it doesn't seem like from anything that I've gathered that she's interested in coming back at the moment.
yeah.
Um, I'm taking a wild guess, and this is not any like reports or anything. This is literally just me guessing, so nobody take this out of context. I am guessing that she is waiting until her contract is up so she can go over to WWE.
I think so as well. I did a video on this a good few months ago. Britt Baker is someone who at the beginning, I know it's going to turn into a segment on her, but like at the beginning they were so hot, and she looked like she was going to be also not character wise, but just kind of stature wise, she was going to be the Tony Storm of AEW. At least I thought when it first started,
Yeah.
and it just hasn't worked that way. And to have someone that who had that bright of future and is incredibly talented in her own right on your cards, and you're just not using them, I think there's clearly a reason, and there's been a very major falling out there. Obviously we all know the reports of what's happened backstage and stuff, so I would be very much inclined to agree with you.
Yeah. So yeah, no idea who could accept the open challenge, but I don't see Mercedes dropping the TBS championship unless they want to add a surprise to the show.
Did it
Because
last time with
yeah,
Chris
like
Statlander.
if they have like people like Kyle Fletcher retaining, Brodito retaining, and most champions retaining, it could be very possible that Mercedes just gets an all of a sudden step back and loses a championship here, um, which would be pretty interesting because I don't think that she needs all these titles that she has. Um,
Yep.
but I don't think she's losing. But we have to wait and see who ends up accepting that open challenge. Um, Something else AEW related. And this is kind of the final thing to talk about here. Because I there wasn't really anything else that I had written down. I don't know if I missed anything. Um, but we have we had reports that AEW was trying to get a training facility started, and it ended up just flopping, and it is not going to be a thing. I think this could have been really cool because you could have had a lot of independent wrestlers go over to this training facility, get their name out there, get recognized a little bit, and get signed. And we know AEW loves signing independent wrestlers, and they keep a close eye on independent wrestling. So I think that this could have been really good for a lot of wrestlers on the indies, but not sure what went into it flopping. I haven't seen any in detailed reports about this, but I think this could have been really cool for AEW to get a training facility.
Yeah, I seen this report, and I agree. I didn't. I will be honest. I just seen it. I haven't really read into it. I didn't even know, for example, as you said, that this didn't work out. But I think, as you said, it would have been a very cool idea if they were able to pull it off, and would have just given, as you said, another option for a bunch of the younger, independent talent to be able to go and hone their craft before going to. I know they also have ROH, but like to have an actual facility where they can sit and they can train under the best, well, like what AEW's got to offer, and just like they have obviously at NXT. I think that would have benefited a lot of talent.
Yeah, 100%. Um, but yeah, that is that is the headlines of the week this week for pro wrestling. Some pretty interesting things that we talked about here. A shorter episode of the headlines, but we are a man down. Today it was just me and Rue. Stu was unable to join us, but we will be back tomorrow with the hot takes video that we mentioned. So yeah, make sure you guys are sticking around for the hot take that'll be up on YouTube and Spotify as well as all the other podcasts. If you haven't checked out our WrestleDream predictions yet, go ahead and check that out. It was me, Rue, and Stu all giving our WrestleDream predictions. So go ahead and check that out. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, hit the notification bell so you're up to date with all the videos, podcasts, and interviews that come to the channel. Check out the Kayfabe Central website. That's where I post all my coverage posts, written predictions, articles, all that good stuff. I will have the WrestleDream coverage post at some point before the tailgate brawl starts. So I'm not sure how long this is going to take me to upload. It shouldn't take too long if I don't get sidetracked by other things. So it'll be up at some point. So make sure you guys keep a lookout for that as well. If you're unable to catch Russell's Dream, I will be updating live on the website everything that is going down. So keep an eye out for that. Make sure you guys go follow Rue on Wrestling and Stu World Order on TikTok. They make some great content and go ahead and give them a follow. Check out my podcast that I did alongside the Wrestling Geezer as well. Fantastic conversation, fantastic guy, really nice guy, and we just had an hour, 20-minute conversation about just wrestling and a whole bunch of things going on in the world of professional wrestling right now. So make sure you guys go check that out as well. But yeah, that will do it for us for the headlines in pro wrestling this week. We will see you guys tomorrow for the hot takes video. I don't know what I'm actually gonna call that video yet. I'll figure it out when I get there. But yeah, I will see you guys there, and until then, take it easy.